Hello, 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 and welcome to the Empowerpreneurs podcast, or welcome back. And I am, as always, excited to record a new episode. And today I am with Kylie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It is so special anytime I get to have intentional conversations with other humans and to share my story too. So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Beautiful. So, can you share about you, who you are, and your journey?
Yes, of course. So I am Kylie. I am a holistic life coach. I'm a yoga and meditation guide, and I run women's well-being retreats. So that is the bulk of my, I guess, career aspect of who I am. I also am a Pisces sun, Gemini moon, Pisces rising for all my astrology buffs. And I very much resonate with that. I think that at the core of everything I do is this deep empathy and capacity to feel. And everything I put out, everything I share comes from a space of creation energy, which I am very grateful to my Pisces placements for that.
That's amazing. I love that. And yeah, Pisces like have this natural way of having emotions and
Mhm.
being able to like connect with their emotions. So I don't know a lot about astrology, but I know that for sure.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it's actually, I think, one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given in my life is that ability to feel, because I think as a society, we're so conditioned to not feel, and we're conditioned to repress our emotions or to view certain emotions as inherently positive and others as inherently negative. And a huge part of my work as a coach and just as a space holder and as a guide is really holding space for the full spectrum of human emotions and letting others really know that all of their emotions are valuable and are worth having a conversation with, worth inviting to the dinner table.
I so relate to that. I remember the first time that I've heard like that emotions are not a bad or a good thing. It's just the stories that you are like assigning to them that are making them a bad or a good thing. Because as an example, crying could be, because you're sad, but also because you're excited or you're happy about something. So when you're thinking of that, you're like, okay, so at the end of the day, I'm crying either way, but it's just the way that it makes me feel and the way that I then assign a story about that. And I was like, oh, okay. So now that I can understand that, how can I use it intentionally and, just not fear having emotions? Because sometimes you're like, oh no, I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel like fear. I don't want to feel all those things. And I've watched a TikTok this morning. There was this person saying, yeah, I want to be heartless. And I was
Mm,
like, oh, that's sad. And I remember like being on this phase in my life and being like, oh, I want to be heartless. I don't want to feel anymore.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that it is look no further than the fact that we are so addicted to technology and video games and any mind numbing tool, for lack of a better word. And I really think that a huge part of that is just because there are things that numb our emotions, and there are so many things that do that, whether it's substances like alcohol or drugs or um but then there are things that are less obvious, like Instagram, and so many people are avoiding feeling what they really need to feel by just simply scrolling, and we don't realize it, and it's really mindless. But I think in order for us to take our power back, in order for us to glean wisdom from our experiences, we have to feel. There's that phrase that I feel like everyone hears, feel it to heal it. Have you heard that?
Mm.
Yeah. And I mean, it's popular for a reason. Like it's really so true. And there's some statistic about, you'll have to look up to fact check me after this, but there's some statistic about an emotion truly felt only lasts
Yeah.
90 seconds.
I saw that and I was like,
Mind
what?
blowing. Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy. And so it's like the thing happens, then we create the story, and that's where all the pain is. That's where all the suffering is. And then the moment we feel the emotion, we actually feel it, which lasts 90 seconds. And then it's like, oh, it's over. I survived. I'm probably wiser and more resilient as a result.
Yeah. When I
It's,
saw that, I was like, that there's no way.
yeah,
Like my emotions just last 90 seconds if I don't pay, like if I don't like put a story on it and be like, okay, so I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that and this is really bad and this is I don't want to do this, and like this emotion lasts longer when you're actually attaching yourself to it, and it's kind of like, you are the sky, not the different like clouds and the different, like it's the rain and the sun. You are just the sky, and you get to like, have rainy days and sunny days, but it doesn't mean anything about you.
yeah, yeah. Totally. And I think that's a huge point that you just made. Like, it doesn't, your worthiness is not affected by the emotions that you feel. You're not unworthy because you're angry. You're not unworthy because you experience a deep depression. Those are phases in our lives, and they're just simply that, they're emotions. And it doesn't have anything to do with your inherent value as a human being.
Mm. And how did your journey begin in terms of like emotional resiliency and understanding that you are not your emotion, and that you are allowed to just like feel the uncomfortable as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful question. I come from a little bit of a challenging background. So my dad growing up experienced severe substance abuse disorder with heroin, and I grew up being raised by an incredibly loving and empathetic and generous mother. And I was forced from a young age to either allow my experience, my negative experience of my dad's substance abuse, to take a hold of me and turn me into this bitter, angry, and spiteful victim, or I could really feel how hard it was that I went through what I went through and spin it into a meaningful way of living. And it's really, that is at the core of why I do everything that I do, because and it began with my meditation and yoga practice, but my meditation and yoga practice saved my life in that sense. If it weren't for being given those spaces and opportunities where I could really look at my life from a bird's eye view and see that these awful things did happen, but they weren't happening to me. I am not the victim. But they really were, they were guiding lights for me. They were experiences that showed me what's important in life, showed me the disparities of the world that we live in, and gave my life meaning and responsibility, and humbled me in a huge way.
Mm. Yeah, we always like have this learning of our childhood when we allow it to just be transformative as well. And when we go from, this was how an awful like moment to leave, but now I'm on the other side. So how
Mm.
can we take a step back from it and be like, okay, how can I actually make this my power as well? Mm.
Yes. Yeah, I always say that struggle is the soil in which joy grows. And I really believe that. Like, in my life, nothing has been truer than that. You know, going through something really challenging gives you so much perspective, and it's such a ripe opportunity to see how truly beautiful and fragile and precious life is. Yeah.
Mm. And even as business owners, because the old way of how people were teaching you about business is being like, yeah, if you're afraid, just do it anyway. And yeah, get rid of the fear, fear is not there, and just do it as if it wasn't there, and all those things, fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of like started my business. I was like, okay, so if I need to fake it until I make it, if I'm afraid, then no, I'm not afraid. It's fine. Everything is fine.
Deny. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, that's not how it works, because then your brain is not like someone that you can trick. It's like, I
Mm.
know what's going on. I know that you're lying. So
Your
definitely,
subconscious always knows.
definitely don't do this with me, because that's not going to work. And then, you miss certain signals in your body and in your life, and you're just like denying, and it's just not working for you,
Right.
because emotions are meant to be felt. And when I first heard that, it was like, it's really cliche, and I don't want to be like feeling uncomfortable emotions. Like, that makes sense. But then you're like, okay, so once the wave of emotion has came through, it's way more calmer, because I'm like, well, I'm still alive at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Like, I'm still here, and
Yeah.
I get to harness the uncomfortable and just surrender to that as well, instead of being like, no, I don't want to feel that, let's like get rid of the fear. No, how can I feel the fear and still move, still
Yeah.
go through it, still like do what I wanted to do, and bring back this safety, because I get to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to think of it as, in my own life, as me dancing with the fear. You know, it's a dance, and I can't push the fear away. I can't overpower it. That no two dance partners can operate fluidly like that, but it's me allowing fear to have a seat at the table. Rumi has a beautiful poem called The Guest House. Have you heard it?
No.
It talks about inviting all of your emotions to the dinner table and sitting down with them and treating them like their guests, and asking them, what are you here to share, and what would you like to tell me, and really getting to know them and treating them honorably. And we don't treat fear worse than we treat abundance. We treat them all the same. We give them all the same level of attention and the same level of care, because they're all worthy parts of us, and they're all worthy of getting to know and getting to understand.
Yeah. Like, you are allowed to sit at this table too, and not being an outsider.
Yes, yes.
I
Yeah,
love
and
this.
yeah, I know, me too. And it's been such a beautiful practice for me too. As a business owner, and I imagine you can relate to this a lot, and even going back, which I haven't shared too much about, but I started in corporate fashion, and it was a huge leap to leave corporate fashion, my very cushy job, and step into entrepreneurship, and step into a space that I had not previously been a leader in. And I'm still in that space right now of just growth and understanding what it means to be an entrepreneur, and experiencing new challenges every single day. And the fear comes up a lot, almost every day. And I think that that's kind of a misconception that sometimes people have about business owners, about entrepreneurs, is, wow, they're so fearless. And that's not it at all. like I'm the furthest thing from fearless. I experience fear to an extreme degree every day. But the difference is I'll say to my fear, hi there, how are you doing? What is it that you're trying to protect me from? And my fear will say something along the lines of, you might never get another client. You're not going to book out your retreat. You're not, you don't have the wisdom to be leading a space this big. And then I get to say to fear, like, I hear you and I understand that you're trying to keep me safe and to protect me, but I'm resilient and I believe in myself to come out on top. And it's such a transformational practice for me to do that. I
Hmm.
wouldn't be here without it.
Wow, this conversation is just raw and beautiful because it's just sharing what's true behind those doors that you don't see on the internet. You see like all those successful people, all those people that are sharing their truth, sharing their message. You're seeing them like having all those clients or doing their events or like launching their podcast, and you're like, oh, I want to do that, but
Yeah.
I'm afraid and I can't do that because I'm afraid. And you're like, my fear is just like blocking me. And it's literally, paralyzing you. It's like
Mhm.
putting you in freeze mode.
Mhm.
And the more you can understand what's happening and listen to yourself, listen to your soul, listen to your body, the more you can then talk to yourself and be like, you know what? That's actually going to be okay. We're going to be okay because I choose to, and because I choose to believe in us, believe in me. And, it's all about learning
Mhm.
how to believe in yourself, how to, be gentle with yourself. Because some people think that we get up in the morning and we're like, oh my God, I'm so fearless. I know everything I need to do. I have like every right emotions, and I've never felt any like sadness in a year because now I'm successful. And I'm like, that's not how it's going. That's not
No,
it.
not at all. Far from it. And I really want to break that image because no one can live up to that. And I think it can feel really isolating for entrepreneurs or for people who are really stepping out and following their dreams, for others to expect of them that it's going to be easy and that they always will succeed.
Yeah.
Because we're humans too, and failure is absolutely on the table, and that's okay because it's an opportunity to learn, and it's an opportunity to meet ourselves with compassion and to give ourselves the same grace that maybe the world wouldn't necessarily give us.
Yeah. And we also like learned way more about uncomfortable things and about like failure. And I was like, I need to redefine what failure means to me, because right now, failure just means that I'm a failure. So I'm associating myself with like the results that I have, which is not what we want. And I like see it as something really bad, something that means something about me or that means something about what I should or shouldn't do. And it's just like, no, it's just a way of bringing yourself back to, okay, what matters right now? And how can we translate this energy in a way that is more powerful, maybe in a way that is more like allowing us to get where we want?
Yeah. Yeah. I did a meditation on the winter solstice this year. And for a little context, I had just gotten back from a month in Bali, and I went for an advanced yoga teacher training. So I was spending a month in Ubud with some of the most profoundly talented and insightful teachers I've ever encountered, from meditation to breath work to yoga, spirituality, yoga philosophy. And I was so inspired and so enraptured by that experience. And it really deeply changed me. And then I came home and I immediately moved to New Mexico, which is where I live now. And I had a few weeks maybe even a full month where I just couldn't do anything. I could not be productive. Every day I would wake up and I was just I felt so paralyzed from taking any action. And then the winter solstice comes, and I did this virtual solstice gathering, and I had this meditation, and we were in the dark in the meditation. We were being led in the dark. And I don't remember the exact question that was posed to us in the meditation, but it was like, basically, what is keeping you from moving forward into the dark? And instantly the first phrase that came to my mind was fear of failure.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, all these days I've spent really feeling, I mean, I was just straight up procrastinating. Like, there's no other word for it. I had so much I needed to do and wanted to do for my business, but I was so fearful of failure that I was just, it was like my body was in freeze mode. I didn't feel like I could move forward. But once, and in that meditation, once I had that message come through that this is really what we're working with. It's not procrastination. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you don't want to do it. It's that you're freaking scared. You are fearful of failing. And I mean, I think that's something we all can relate to, not doing something, not stepping into a zone because we're scared of letting ourselves down.
I feel like we need to talk about this because there are a lot of experts or motivational speakers that are telling you, like, if you wanted to, you would.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, ah, that's not something that is really motivational, because you're kind of like saying, yeah, you're just a piece of shit because you don't do it.
You
And if
lazy
you really
bum.
wanted to, you would do it. So it's just your fault that you
Right.
don't succeed. This is just your fault. And it's just like, it's not getting you anywhere. And when I read more about, the nervous system, the brain, I was like, you can't say to someone that if they wanted to, they would, because, like you said, you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You had this willingness to do it. So it's not that. But fear is actually like the most paralyzing thing that can like happen to you, to your business, to anything else, because you could have like the most willingness that you would like to have,
Mhm.
but if you have this big fear, it's not going to work, and you're just going to be like, I'm in freeze mode and
Mhm.
I can't figure anything out. My brain is froze. My
Frozen,
body
yeah.
is froze. I cannot do anything. Everything seems like a big mountain.
Yeah.
Everything feels like so hard. And that's like your body and your brain working against you
Yeah.
because they just want to keep you safe. So when you hear someone saying to you, if you wanted to, you would. No, it's just
Yeah.
that your brain is actually preventing you from going into the thing that is fear, that
Yes.
is
Yes.
scary. So,
1000%. 1000%. And I think what's the huge lesson there is things are not what they seem on the surface. Your procrastination does not equal laziness. It does not mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean you don't want to do it. And I think it's a huge mistake that we make in our world, that we assume that things are as they appear that they are. And this is a perfect example for me in my life. There have been so many others that have been revealed to me through meditation or yoga or embodiment practices, but it's about going to the belief level, the deep level where things are formed when you're young and when you're still developing. And what you said is exactly right. The fear is there because it's trying to keep us safe. And I think that's really what's important to acknowledge and to honor fear for. Like, hey, fear, I see you. You're trying to keep me safe. You love me. You want what's best for me. And our bodies and our minds, I mean, we're evolutionary beings. We have been evolved to believe that what is unknown is fearful. And I actually just listened to a podcast the other day about the neuroscience behind why vision boards work and why they're so powerful. And the neuroscientist was talking about how the reason they're so powerful is because you're giving your brain an opportunity to see what's possible, which then decreases the amount of fear that you might experience about actually moving towards those things. So it's like, you want to own a home. In your mind, you're terrified of it. You have no idea anything about mortgage and escrow and this and that. But then you put it on your vision board and you start to see it and you start to relate to it and you start to experience it and in a physical way. And then it's like, oh, okay, I can maybe start to see it. I can start to imagine it. And the fear just it quiets down a little bit.
Yeah, it's like there were like scientific researches on visualization, and
Yes.
they've done like researches on athletes, and they asked the athletes to actually like envision themselves running,
Yeah.
and their actual like muscles activated because their body were like, I'm actually running. And it was like, so you're telling me that when I just visualize something, when I'm just like imagining something, my body activates part of me, and is like, because your brain doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what is actually true.
Yeah.
And when you understand that,
100%.
that's like,
Oh,
oh my God.
yeah.
Okay.
Like we can hijack our bodies and our minds. We really can. Like, and I think the opposite of that is also true. And it's the
Yeah.
reason I'm so passionate about breath work and meditation, because I can't tell you how many times I've woken up and I've been sluggish and exhausted. And I will spend 2 minutes doing Kabbalabhati or breath of fire. I'll spend 2 minutes doing breath work, or I'll do a cold plunge, or I will like turn on a song and dance like crazy. And then afterwards, my body feels like I'm on top of the world. I can do anything. And I think it's just the coolest thing in the world that we can really harness the power of our breath and movement and body, and vice versa, what you were saying, really understand how certain thoughts can affect our body. It's such a beautiful connection.
Yeah, that's why with what I do, either like with the podcast or with my students and my clients, I always want to add somatic
Yes.
and holistic, but also like the brain. How
Mhm.
does the brain works? Because I remember that when I was dealing with depression and I've started to understand how my brain works, I was like, okay, so if this is how my brain works, it's kind of easy. So I have a thought or I have an emotion, and then I have a thought about this emotion, and then it's like sending signals to my brain, and my brain is creating um neural pathways and different like energies and all those things, and then this is like what makes me feel even more. It
Yeah.
all starts with then your thoughts. And I was like, okay, so how can I be more aware of my thoughts? And the more aware I was of my thought, the more I could like change my thoughts and be like, okay, so this is what I'm thinking about right now. How can I shift to something more empowering? How can I think different? And this is how I've been able to, get out of those emotions, waves, and depression. It's because I've been able to, understand how my brain works. and all
Yeah.
those things, like chemicals and all those things. You're like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I mean, firstly, congrats for even having the awareness to explore that and to, I don't know, to really take time to understand your brain. It's something that is so foreign to many of us. We're often strangers to our entire physiological system. And it's a really, really powerful, but can be a quite emotional experience to learn that, yeah, that you can befriend your brain and your body, and you can, experience them in a new way that feels supportive and empowering rather than isolating.
Mm, I love that. Can you share something that you think could be something that my listeners would need to hear today?
That's a beautiful question. I think that it's been on my heart a lot lately that especially with social media, that we are all told who we should be, what our life should look like, what we should do with our career, how we should have our morning coffee, what we should eat for lunch. I mean, look no further than the fact that the morning routine and get ready with me trends on social media are the most popular. People are hungry for someone else to tell them how to live their life, how to spend their time, what to wear, what to look like, what to even care about. And my biggest message and encouragement to anyone is that we were all born with a unique truth. You're the only one in the entire world who has experienced exactly what you've experienced. No one else in this world has your experiences in the same way and order and timeline. And that is beautiful. That is magical. And I really see it as all of our energetic responsibility to look within and try to uncover what our truth is. Don't look on social media. Don't look outside of yourself. Spend 5 minutes in your body and your brain and ask yourself, what is my truth? What am I here for? And I think we would all live in a more balanced and uplifting and empowered world if we all embodied our truths more deeply than we tried to imitate others.
Mm, that's really powerful.
Mm.
Thank you so much for
Mm.
sharing who you are with us for a moment. And yeah, that's just sometimes it's about understanding that you also have the answers.
Yes.
And by seeking the answers like externally every single time, this is where you feel like there is a block because sometimes and most of the times it's not aligned with who you are and with your life and all those things.
Mm.
And the more you understand that you have the answers within you, you just have and you just get to look for them
Yeah.
and to let them come through you. This is where you really get to live your life.
Yes. Yes. It really like even makes me emotional to hear you saying that because it's so true. And I think like even you being here on this, sharing this podcast with me, inviting me to come on, like I can see how much it makes you radiate. I can see how much it fuels you and brings you joy and gives you this. I mean, you have like a light aura around your being, and it's because it's your truth. It's because you followed what your heart wanted to follow. The best advice I've ever been given. I was still in college at this time, but I went to Los Angeles for spring break, and I was at there's this magazine called Darling Magazine, and I was at one of their Darling dinners, and I was sitting next to a woman who was maybe in her mid 40s, and at the time I was in a total crisis about what do I do for my career, and what does it mean, like if I go into buying, then that means I'll end up here in 10 years. If I do this, it means I'll end up there. And I was just in complete turmoil about my path. And I asked the woman, what advice would you give to your younger self, or would you give to me? And she said so simply, follow the tug of your heart. And boy, if we just all followed the tug of our heart, not the tug of others, not what we think would make others proud of us, but our tug, our truth, mm, we'd be living some seriously aligned and badass lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And I love that. The more you follow your heart, the more you follow like your purpose, because your purpose is just like you following your heart, you following your desires, you following, the things that you thought would be impossible, but just you're able to visualize it, the power of visualization, and you're able to just say, I know that I'm like available for more. I know that I can be available for more, and I want to be available for more.
Mhm.
So how about just allowing yourselves to get that more, to just be ourselves? Because the most like easiest thing to do would be to be ourselves, but it's just like no one ever taught us to be ourselves.
Yeah.
No one ever like told, at least me, be yourself. That's just as simple as it is. And
Mhm.
so we need to learn how to be ourselves when it's like really like intuitive.
Right, right. Yeah. It's so true. And even in my coaching program, the first step, the first few sessions of any of my programs are unlearning,
Hmm.
because we cannot grow, we cannot build a new way of being, a new way of expressing ourselves in the world until we unlearn all the shit that isn't us. And that takes a lot of intention, and it's vulnerable, because it's like, wow, I'm taking off this really supportive mask that's been affirmed by the world. Other people have affirmed us, like, oh, I like this about you, that's interesting about you. And so then we kind of stake those around us in the ground, like a little fortress of identity. And it's hard work to push those stakes down and to be like, no, I'm going to expose myself to what is my true purpose. And it requires a deep vulnerability and trust.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Thank you so much for your light and
Mhm.
for sharing your passion, your purpose, for sharing your beautiful wisdom. It's been an amazing conversation with like heart-centered conversation, and those are my favorite conversations to have. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up in your truth, and for breaking boundaries, and for inviting me here. And yeah, just sharing openly and honestly. It's been wonderful.
Would you share with us where we can find you, connect with you, and work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal Instagram is at simply Kylee. It's simply and then Kyle. My business Instagram is at the practice underscore of. And yeah, right now I am running a few different programs. I do one-to-one laser coaching sessions with clients. You can book up to 3 sessions that way. I also run a 9-month coaching program called Unearth Your Highest Self. That is really my creme de la creme service. That's where my clients step in feeling a deep lack of clarity and purpose, and leave with serious ambitions, and making moves towards the life that they want to live. It's my heart and soul, that program. And I very excitedly just launched a women's group coaching program yesterday. Oh,
Yay.
I'm so excited for this one. It'll be 3 months. We'll meet every other Tuesday from 7 to 8:30 EST. It'll be a more intimate group of women just to keep the space really sacred. I'm actually co-hosting that with one of the most soulful and incredible humans I know. Her name's Sabrina. And it will be incorporating embodied movement, mindfulness, meditation, my holistic life coaching methodologies, and ceremony. And yeah, we're giving away 2 scholarship spots for LGBTQ plus and BIPOC identifying humans. So if you are among that category, reach out. I'd love to give you one of the scholarship spots. And other than that, you can head to my website. It's thepracticeof.org. Send me a DM, send me an email. I'd love to connect with all of you beautiful humans.
Amazing. And that's a great, like, and because I love to ask also my guests, who would they like to see next on the podcast?
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, I honestly feel like I have to say Sabrina. She is the dopest human. Oh, I love her so much. I met her in Bali actually for my 300-hour training, and it was like a soulmate connection. She is just got so much wisdom and life experience and is an incredibly mindful and empowering yoga teacher and space holder.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's also a
Yay!
professional scuba diver, which is just the coolest thing.
I love that.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you again for being so honest with us and for sharing your beautiful souls with us.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you and to have this space to share. This felt like such a catharsis for me in a way to just spill and share.